At exactly 5:58 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not a call, not a warning, not even a courtesy message. An HOA violation notice. I remember the time because I was already awake, lying in bed, listening to the sound of wind howling outside and snow tapping against my bedroom window like someone trying to get my attention. Overnight, our quiet suburban street had been buried. Not a light dusting. I'm talking 16 inches of heavy, wet snow, the kind that turns driveways into cement and sidewalks into ice rinks. I sighed, threw on my boots and headed to the garage. Because at 6:11 a.m., I had to leave for work. And because I'm not stupid, I bought a snowblower years ago. A decent one. Gas-powered. Loud, but effective. Or at least it used to be. I rolled it out, pulled the cord. And before I could even clear the first pass of my driveway, my phone buzzed again. Show notice. Immediate compliance required. Use of loud mechanical equipment before 8 a.m. violates community noise standards. Cease operation immediately. I stared at the screen. Then I laughed, out loud, because this had to be a mistake. The plows hadn't come yet. Cars were buried. The sidewalks were invisible. And these people were worried about noise? I shut off the snowblower and checked my email. That's when I saw it. A newly issued rule dated that morning. Effective immediately, all motorized snow removal equipment is prohibited between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. I blinked. Then I scrolled. Then I reread it. And then my stomach dropped. This wasn't a reminder. This wasn't a suggestion. It was a finable offense. $250 per violation. Escalating penalties for non-compliance. I looked up and down the street. Half my neighbors were elderly. 2 were nurses. 1 was a single dad with twins. Nobody was getting out without snow removal. And apparently, the HOA had decided that no one was allowed to clear snow before sunrise. I grabbed my shovel instead. 3 minutes later, my shoulders were on fire. 10 minutes later, my back screamed. And 20 minutes later, a black SUV rolled slowly down the street, stopped, and parked right in front of my house. The driver's door opened. Out stepped Linda. Everyone had a Linda. Mid-50s, perfect hair. Clipboard glued to her hand like it was a weapon. HOA board vice president. She smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind that says I caught you. Good morning, she said way too cheerfully. I leaned on my shovel. Is it? She glanced at my driveway. I noticed you were using a snowblower earlier. For about 30 seconds. That's a violation. I stared at her. You're kidding. She didn't blink. You received the notice. At 6 in the morning. She nodded. Yes, the board voted last night. You voted last night and enforced it this morning? Correct. I laughed again, this time sharper. So what exactly do you expect people to do? She tilted her head. Manual removal is permitted. I gestured to the snowbank. 16 inches. Yes, she said calmly. Shovels don't make noise. I felt heat crawl up my neck. And if people can't shovel? She smiled again. They can wait. For the plows? She shook her head. For 8 a.m. That's 2 hours from now. Yes? And what about emergency vehicles? She pursed her lips. That's the city's responsibility. I pointed down the street. Your board members live at the end of a private access road. She crossed her arms. Which brings me to another point, she said. My stomach tightened. You're responsible for maintaining the shared easement leading to the main road. I froze. Excuse me? She tapped her clipboard. Your property includes the easement strip. Failure to maintain it could result in fines. I stared at her. That easement, the one I owned, the one I paid taxes on, the one I allowed the HOA to use as a courtesy. She must have seen something change in my face, because she took a step back. Of course, she added quickly, we expect compliance. Then she turned and walked back to her SUV. As she drove away, I looked at the untouched snow covering that easement. And that's when it hit me. They had no idea what they'd just done. I went back inside, didn't shovel, didn't clear anything. I sat down at my desk and opened a folder I hadn't touched in years. Property documents, survey maps, deeds, recorded easement agreements. And there it was, clear as day. The HOA's access across my land was revocable. Not permanent, not guaranteed, conditional, based on reasonable use and mutual benefit. Noise restrictions that prevented safe access during emergencies? That wasn't reasonable. I called a lawyer friend. He paused. Then he laughed. They banned snow removal? Yes. And they rely on your easement? Yes. There was silence. Then, do you want to be polite or nuclear? I smiled. Professional. By 7:15 a.m. I sent a formal notice. No threats. No insults, just facts. Due to newly imposed HOA regulations that interfere with safe and reasonable maintenance of my property, I am revoking permission for HOA access across my easement effective immediately. I printed it, signed it, and walked outside. I placed temporary barriers at both ends of the easement. Bright orange, impossible to miss. Then I waited. At 7:42 a.m., my phone started ringing. The first call was Linda. I let it go to voicemail. The second was the HOA president. Ignored. By 8:05 a.m., the street was chaos. Cars stuck, people late, board members panicking, because the only cleared road was mine, and they couldn't legally use it anymore. At 8:17 a.m., Linda showed up again, this time furious. "You can't do this," she shouted. I stood on my porch. "You banned my snowblower." "That's unrelated." "It's directly related." "You're trapping people." "No," I said calmly. "Your rules did." She tried to step past the barrier. I held up my phone. "Don't." She froze. "I've notified the city," I said, "and my attorney." Her face drained of color. "You'll hear from the board," she snapped. "I already did," I replied. She left in tears. At 9:30 a.m., an ambulance tried to access the neighborhood and couldn't. The city intervened. Fast. By noon, the HOA emergency meeting was over. The rule? Gone. Not suspended. Deleted. A new notice went out. Snow removal equipment is permitted at all hours during severe weather events. They apologized. Publicly. In writing. The easement? Reinstated with restrictions. No unilateral rule changes. No retroactive enforcement. And no authority over my property. Linda resigned 3 weeks later. And every winter since? I clear my driveway at 5:59 a.m. Loud, efficient, and completely within my rights. Because when an HOA tries to control what they don't own, sometimes the fastest way out is realizing they're already trapped.